my gosh, guys, I am so excited to give you this video today. You did a great job sending me photos of your Crabitat and giving me lots of info. Before we begin, I just want to say that if you guys want a part 2 of this video, or maybe we can even do it monthly if we got enough people involved, you can still send me photos of your Crabitats either through Instagram or email. The links will be in the description below. Please remember, guys, that I'm just trying to help you care for your hermit crabs properly and give you some ideas for decorating. I'm going to tell you what's good about your Crabitat and what you can improve on. So let's get started. So our first one is from Davey. Nice name. I actually have a crab named Davey. And Davey says, I have a 10-gallon tank with 2 crabs. One is molting, so I can't show you the photo. I have a heat lamp instead of a heat pad. And keep in mind that I just got them a couple months ago, and so they still have painted shells on. So the first thing I've got to say is that this is a great start for your Crabitat. Like, if you're saying you just got them a couple months ago, it's really great, like way better than my first Crabitat. I like that you have somewhere really nice and dark for them to hide, and I also like that you're providing them with some stuff to climb on. I really like that you're using a safe substrate. It looks like eco-earth or some sort of coconut fiber to me. However, your substrate is not deep enough. I'm assuming that black line is the bottom of the tank, and if that's the case, your eco-earth is like less than an inch deep, which is not good. The reason your substrate needs to be deep is so that when your crabs molt, they don't smell each other molting and then eat each other, which is a real possibility. I even had 5 inches of substrate and my crabs still smelled each other and tried to cannibalize one another. You really want at least 6 inches, and that's about all you can do in a 10-gallon tank, but I would really encourage you to make that substrate deeper. And then your water dishes also need to be deep enough so that the crabs can fully submerge. You can either buy new dishes that are deeper or you can make them yourself. I actually have ones that are a container with plastic canvas and rocks in it. I'll put that in here so that you can see what it looks like. As far as your hermit crabs go, they look like they're doing pretty well, except for the painted shells, of course. And I actually really plan on making a video that shows the different types of shells that are good for hermit crabs, because a lot of the ones sold in pet stores are not ones that hermit crabs will actually use. For example, the shell that you have in your tank here, I can almost guarantee you that first hermit crab, this one, probably won't use because the opening is more of an oval shape instead of being round. It would be much more likely to go in a shell like this that has a round opening. So yeah, pretty much you're doing great for a first-time hermit crab owner. Just make that substrate deeper, make the water dishes deeper, and get some better shells. Our next one is from Velma, and Velma says, I live in Sweden. I have 2 hermit crabs, and they live in a 10-gallon terrarium. The type of crab they have is Sonobita rugosus, which is the Latin name for the crab commonly known as a ruggy. And the picture they sent is from when they just got the terrarium. So here's the Crabitat that you sent in, and I have to say, you did a good job. I really like the design of it. It looks very natural. You've got eco-earth for substrate, some nice water dishes, and I like the plants in the background for them to climb. There's really only 2 things here that I see that could use some improving. One is the substrate depth. Like I said for the previous Crabitat, you want it to be at least 6 inches, like nice and deep for your hermit crabs so that when they molt, they're safe from the other crabs. My only other concern is that the wooden hide you have here might not be safe for your crabs. There's actually a lot of different kinds of wood that are toxic to hermit crabs. Pine is the main one, so I would just recommend you make sure what kind of wood that is and make sure it's safe for your crabs. I'll leave a link in the description to a website that tells you the different kinds of wood that are safe for them. But yeah, if you already know that that wood is safe for them, then you're doing a great job. Your ruggies look really happy and healthy, and for those that don't know, ruggies are actually really rare in the United States, but they're more common throughout the rest of the world. And for a lot of crabbers, they're their favorite species because they're very sweet but also active. Our next one is from Adelaide and Egg, who says, I have a 65-gallon tank. There's 5 inches of substrate in the front and 8 inches at the back. There are currently 2 crabs in this tank and 2 are in my old tank molting. Okay, so your tank is amazing. absolutely amazing. I think my crabs would leave me in a heartbeat to come live in your tank. You've just done a really good job not only making your tank look beautiful, but also with providing your crabs with the proper care. So great job. Right here you got some, it looks like coral and maybe a sand dollar for them to get calcium from and other minerals. That's really good. Your water dish looks really great. You have little rocks in there or gravel, and then a good way for them to climb out so that they don't drown. And then you got this coconut hide here, which it looks like moss in there, so it's sort of like a moss pit. That's neat. And then for those of you that don't know this wood in the front is actually called cholla wood, and it's made from cacti. Here's another piece of it in her tank, and I just gotta say it's very good for hermit crabs. Not only does it look natural, but it's also very easy for them to climb, so you can use it as like a bridge from one side of the tank to another, and they can also eat it. I definitely recommend cholla wood, especially for those of you that want to make your Crabitat a second story to give your crabs more room to climb and explore and just have more space overall. So the one and only concerning thing I can say about your tank is this thermostat here. I've actually owned 2 of them, and they have both broke on me randomly. Like one day I just went to the tank and it said it was 40 degrees when it clearly was not. So I would just say watch your thermometer there. I don't think it's a very high quality one. I've always heard that the digital thermostats are better, and I recently got one and I would have to agree with that. The reading definitely seems much more accurate to me. So that's really all I can say about your Crabitat. It looks absolutely amazing. You've clearly spent a lot of time and effort into caring for your crabs properly, so great job. Our next one is from Tanaris, who says, "Greetings from Vietnam. I have 10 ruggies. 5 of them are small, and the other 5 are baby albinos. I don't actually think there are albino hermit crabs, but ruggies do come in all kinds of colors, including white. And it is a 30-gallon tank." Alright, so here we have it. This is the first tank today that is actually using sand as their main substrate. There was a couple that mixed the sand and the eco-earth, which is what I do. There was one with just the eco-earth, and then this is the first one with just sand. All of these are good options. So the play sand that you're using is great for them. You never want to use colored sand or calcium sand because that is bad for hermit crabs. It will kill them and get stuck inside their shells. The only issue you might have with using just play sand instead of mixing it with eco-earth is that it does not retain water very well, and so your tank will be a little bit more dry. But I also see here that you have bubblers in your pools, which do help humidity. So that's good. The biggest thing I can say, like I've said to everyone today, is that you need deeper substrate, at least 6 inches or 3 to 4 times the size or depth of your largest crab. So you have a 30-gallon tank with 10 hermit crabs in it. That means that you have approximately 3 gallons per crab. Ideally, you want to have 5 to 10 gallons per crab. I think that what you have going on now is fine, but once they get bigger, you're definitely going to need to upgrade to a larger tank. I think that your crabs are kind of crammed in now, but the good news is this tank still has a lot of space that you're not using. You want to create 3 different levels for your crabs. Buried is underneath the substrate, on the surface is on the surface, and then you can also make a second story for your crabs and make them shell shops and moss pits and all sorts of plants and tree branches and stuff for them to climb on the top. For example, in my tank I use plastic containers in the corners of the tank, and then I use a branch or netting across, so that gives my hermit crabs a whole second story, and believe it or not, they spend more time up there than they do on the surface. So I know that after you sent me those initial photos, you also sent me this one of a branch that you made for your hermit crabs to climb, and that is exactly what I'm talking about when I say making your crabs a second story, and I would just continue making all sorts of things like that and giving them things to climb on until you fill the whole top, and that way you are utilizing as much space as possible in your Crabitat. Our next one is from Willy, who has a 10-gallon tank with 2 male hermit crabs. He says he's going to buy more decorations and get another crab. So here's his tank, and the angle is not the greatest for me to be able to see everything that's in his tank, but he is using proper substrate. It looks like eco-earth, And he also has this thing in here, it looks like shells and coral put together, which is neat, and it also provides the crabs with a source of calcium, which is really cool. Here are his crabs, and it looks like one is in a painted shell and the other one is in a natural shell. I would definitely try to get that one out of the painted shell as soon as possible, obviously without forcing it out. I would recommend that you get your crabs better shells. The ones sold in the pet store are not always good for them, and for example, the 3 shells that you have up here in the corner, your hermit crabs are not going to use those. No matter what kind they are, they just don't fit in those types of shells. So I would just say do your research on what types of shells are good for what types of crabs. I'll put a link in the description to a website that explains that pretty well, and then work on getting those shells. Amazon or Etsy sells good shells, and once you have the proper shells, your one in the painted shell will probably change pretty quickly. And since you're buying your crabs more decorations, I would just recommend that you buy more stuff for them to climb on. You can get cork bark, cholla wood, plastic plants. You could use container or popsicle sticks. There's all sorts of things that you can get for your crabs to climb on. Our last Crabitat that is being featured today is from Hermit Crabs. This is my Crabitat. Don't worry, I'm going on a major shopping spree for them and throwing away those disgusting painted shells. I'm also going to get rid of the gravel. I just got the tank for Christmas, and I will send another picture after the shopping spree. So this is the picture before the crab makeover, and I am just glad that you knew this tank needed some help. Honestly, if you left your crabs in here like this and thought it was fine, they were going to die. Gravel is horrible for hermit crabs, and it's pretty much guaranteed to kill them because they cannot molt in it, and molting is necessary for them to survive. It's also really bad because it's hard for them to walk on and will actually break the tips of their legs off. So I'm just very happy that you knew this needed to be changed. Here are some photos from after the makeover. It definitely looks a lot better for your crabs. Well done. There are still a couple things though that I do find concerning. One is this pine log, and pine is actually, unfortunately, toxic to hermit crabs, and I know that wood is pine because I actually bought one of those for my leopard gecko when I first got her. So I would definitely get rid of that pine wood as soon as possible. I would also recommend that you go watch my video on hermit crab pools and water. You want your crabs to be able to fully submerge in their water dishes, which these are not deep enough for, so go check that out. The link will be in the description. Now for a couple things I like about your tank. I really like that you have a bunch of hides for them. These 2 in particular are very private and dark for your crabs, and they like to hide, so those are good for them. And also, your substrate, yay, it's so much better. Looks like you have the sand and eco earth mix, which is what I use, and it is deep enough for your crabs, so that is great. And clearly, your hermit crabs are enjoying the new substrate as well. Overall, you're doing a great job as a first-time crab owner. I like that you knew your initial setup was incorrect and you fixed it. So you're going to be a great crab owner. Good job. So that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you to those of you that watched to the end. I know it was a long video, and thank you to those that submitted photos of their Crabitat. Obviously, it wouldn't have happened without you. I would love to make more videos like this in the future. And speaking of the future, if you guys would vote either on Instagram or in the comments below and let me know what my future videos should be about. Would you prefer a beginner's guide to hermit crab care or more DIY decorating videos? Anyway, that's all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!